Good evening and welcome to Thursday night, the Savage Universe stream on the Pinnacle Entertainment Group channel, wherever you guys happen to be watching this. Hello to Buff Dragon and to Cripright and to John Doom. I just got back from Gamehole Con in Madison. I got to meet Cripright and John Doom in the flesh, and I can tell you they are two separate and distinct people. Not the same person managing two accounts. But tonight I have with me Allan of Imaginarium Games and the publisher of the beautiful, the gorgeous, I love it, Secret Files of Section D. And welcome.
Hello, everybody. Hope everybody's okay.
Yeah. So, Allan, we've had you on the show before, but today I really wanted to focus on Section D. It's out in the wild. The PDFs are available. The print books, which are gorgeous. I was telling you how much I enjoyed the print books before we jumped on stream. They are now available. Yeah. So let's start off. Like, where did the Secret Files of Section D come from?
Okay, so the Secret Files of Section D came from a games convention that I go to. It was, I've been running a regular Savage Worlds game. This convention that I go to runs Friday to Sunday, and I've been running some Savage Worlds for a few guys for a couple of years. And I was looking for something new. A new idea for my Friday night game, and literally I work from home, and my wife works from home as well, and she came upstairs to the room where I work, and she put her head around the door and she said, "Do you want a cup of tea?" And I said, "Want a cup of tea?" That's like, that would be the name for the Aztec god for having a brew, right? Literally my little brain just kind of kicked into gear. And it was right. Okay, so if want a cup of tea is an Aztec god, where do you find him? And then it was the ancient city of Putacatalan. That's where you find want a cup of tea. And then from there it was, okay, if you've got want a cup of tea and you've got an ancient city called Putacatalan, who would go looking for that? And so I started. I was like, right, I'm looking for this game to play, and it just kind of dropped into place. Who would go looking for that? And let's do a pulpy kind of adventure. And then all of a sudden, it just kind of developed from there. And I started doing a bit of research as to who would look for it. And I found Section D. Now, Section D is a real thing. Section D existed. And it was one of the organizations that joined forces in 1940 to become the Special Operations Executive.
The SOE, yeah.
SOE. So when SOE was formed, Section D, that was probably something like 90% of the field, the field operatives that formed the Special Operations Executive were Section D agents. They'd already been training for clandestine warfare. They built up networks and all that kind of thing. So yeah, Section D is a real thing that started operational in 1938. So that's kind of where it came from. Yes, the glory that is the brain of a nerdy author.
That's right.
Yeah. So that is honestly, that's where the whole Section D thing came from, I guess where the book came from and what have you is that one of the players in the game that I was mentioning is a guy by the name of Simon Burley, lovely man. Those who are some people who are kind of my age and have been playing role-playing games since the 80s. Might remember one of the very first superhero games was put out by Games Workshops called Golden Heroes.
Okay.
And Simon Burley is the guy who wrote that. And after we'd done a couple of sessions of Section D, he came to speak to me and he just said, "Oh, you need to publish that. That's just such a cool idea. You should get that out there." And then when the COVID thing happened, I've been working in IT recruitment for 20 years, and for one reason or another, I was working. I got to the stage where I was just sort of working on my own, but in IT recruitment. COVID happened and it just shut down. You know, the business is shut down literally overnight. Is you can't work because your job is to find people and send them to go for job interviews. Well, nobody's going into the office, never mind going for job interviews. So all of a sudden, I can't work. So what am I going to do? And then I thought, well, right, I've got this thing. I'm going to develop it, and let's see where it takes me. And you know, this is where it takes me. This is where we
Well,
are.
I gotta say, thank you for the physical copy of the book. I'm pouring through it. I've got to say, this was my first thing that stood out to me is you do something that I love when authors do, which is when they use the end papers of the book. And so we've got the cover on the screen. This is actually the inside cover. All of the photographs kind of taped to the spread out on the table, and then you get the most secret Section D after action reports. Authorized station head and above, eyes only, do not copy. I love that. I love opening a book to that, opening the cover and seeing that the author put something there as opposed to just blank pages. I realize it's a small thing and it's really just kind of a nerdy layout thing that I love, but I mean, that sucked me in immediately.
And the Savage Worlds stamp on that is Hensley approved as well.
It's Hensley approved? Excellent. Yeah. So let's take a step back. How did you get into Savage Worlds? What do you love about Savage Worlds? And was Section D your first licensee product, or did you do some other things in swag or under the fan license first?
Right. So how I got into Savage Worlds probably in 2005, something like that, 2005, 2006. A friend of mine who was our regular GM brought this game to the table, and it was one of the zombie games. It's the one it's the Savage Worlds campaign with I cannot remember the name of it, but it starts on you start on a cruise ship, and I know that somebody out there is going to be watching this.
Like John Doom or Cryptwright or Landau are going to definitely get those right away.
Yeah, they're going to throw it out there. It starts on the SS Pinnacle with the zombie apocalypse, and that was my first thing into Savage Worlds, and I just loved the system. I sort of going on to your next question, what do you like about Savage Worlds? And what is it? And I'm like a lot of people, particularly my kind of generation of gamer, if you like. Started with Redbox D&D, and very quickly realised that as a game system, it was quite limited, and your imagination was coming up with all of these things that rule set just couldn't handle. So then, I discovered the Palladium RPG and RuneQuest and things like that, and got into games that were a bit more narrative, where a player had options in combat. It wasn't just a case of I'm going to roll a die, then you're going to roll a die, then I'm going to roll. I'm going to roll it. You could influence combat by being a smart player. Or having the character that could do things like that. And that's one of the things that I love about Savage Worlds, is that you can do so much so easily. As a player, you can influence the way that the story goes in combat. You can make it more narrative, more cinematic. And I love the fact that it's as crunchy as you want it to be while staying easy.
Yeah.
And so flexible. You only have to look at some of the things that I've been able to do with Section D just by putting a little twist on some of the Savage Worlds rules. You can do so much with it. It's fantastic for things like that. And then so the other question was, is this my first thing? Yes and no. So I have been doing some writing, and my first foray into writing was actually an adventure for. I was writing it for Triple Ace Games for Hellfrost.
Okay.
But Wiggy, God bless him, he got ill, and that couldn't continue. But what that's actually become is Jan Yetmar's City Guard Chronicles,
Yes.
Case of the Missing Daughter. That's the adventure. That's the adventure that I started off writing for Triple Ace Games for Hellfrost. So Jan took that and adapted it and what have you. But I didn't.
And I'm actually going to have Jan on the show, I think, here towards the end of November. So I'm looking forward to that as well.
Oh yeah. Oh, I didn't know that. I speak to Jan on an almost daily basis, but yeah, he's such a great guy, and he's been a real big help with helping me with some of the layout work and things like that with Section D, and he's great to bounce off, I do that for him, he does that for me. I wish him all the success in the world. He's a great guy.
Oh yeah, he's a great guy. Everyone in the chat though is wondering, are there, like, if we expose some of the pages to heat, if we rub lemon juice on the pages, are there hidden messages throughout?
No, but I've been selling copies of the book at various events and things like that, and some people have said, my book is now very delicious. Yeah. That's the page where if people say, "Will you sign my book?" That's the page where I sign it. It just kind of turned out that way.
Oh, nice.
But if you use a Sharpie, it comes through onto the credits page. So I've got to I've got to make sure that I don't use a Sharpie for things like that anymore. So
oh, that's fair. You don't want bleed through. So let's talk. If you don't mind, I'd love to show off some of the pages from inside the book. I would love to show the. Let's talk about the setting rules, because you mentioned how you adjusted. You tweak the rules for Savage Worlds. Let's see if I got this right. Haha, setting rules. It's like I know what I'm doing. Decoder rings. I think for the next project for Section D, we've just come up with a ton of great things for the print book. UV light revealed under a black light, secret messages, decoder rings, all the capitals in each sentence reveal a secret message when you hold it up to a mirror.
There is actually a little Easter egg. If I don't know if you can do this, but if you go to the cryptography page, and you sort of mentioned the
yeah, let me jump over there. I think that's 2 pages further than where I'm at.
It's a couple of pages further on. There is I'll go one more page.
Okay. I'm pulling up in the physical book.
There you go. So that Morse code at the bottom there, within the stamp, there's a little Easter egg there. If anybody cares to have a go at it.
Page 11. Yeah. If you decode it here while we're on stream, you get a no prize, and I hand out tons of no prizes.
You just get some kudos. But there is a little there's a little Easter egg there. It
is true that Landauer loves decoding stuff like this. So I'll leave this up on the page. I gotta hide your comment, John Doom, because I think I put it, right over the Morse code. So tell us what setting rules did you really engage in to kind of make Section D its own setting?
Okay, so obviously you've got the cryptography one there. The game's set in 1938. Hacking isn't a thing. Computers are not a thing. But everybody, or a lot of communication is done via Morse code. A lot of stuff was done around cryptography. At the time, there's great stories as well around the intelligence community.
Oh yeah,
the breaking of the Enigma code, all of that kind of thing. So it made sense just to have some stuff in there with the cryptography, and it's a little stretch of hacking rules that have come up in other places. So nice. That's not really where that's how we did that. We did a setting rule for cliffhangers,
Okay.
which again is just an expansion on a mechanic that's already there in the quick encounters. But it gives a kind of it gives a couple of things. Narratively, it allows the GM to move a story on. You can kind of almost railroad a story without it being too railroady, if you like. You get the opportunity to deliver a villain's monologue, and those situations where James Bond gets put in the cage above the shark pool, and the villain delivers his monologue, tells him what he's going to do, and then leaves the room. And that's what you do, or what's the I'm trying to remember which movie it is now. Sean Connery Bond is tied to the table. You expect me to talk? No, Mr. Bond. I expect you to die.
Yeah, that's my.
And then there's the laser between the legs thing. But the bad guy, he's gone. So, he's given the spy the opportunity to escape. And that's what cliffhangers are all about. But all I've done is taken the quick encounter rules and bolted a few extra bits on there. So the GM can put the player characters into an unwinnable situation and just say, right, this is a cliffhanger. So now what you do is you tell me, you narrate, how does your character get out of this?
Right, with no worries about, well, if you fail this roll, the laser cuts you in half.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah. It's like, you are going to get out of this situation. That you do suffer a loss. The players suffer a loss. That might be you lose some gear, you just lose some time, or whatever it may be. There's a little setback for the players, but there's also a win for the players as well. So they might get they get that villain monologue. So all of a sudden, well, now we know what the villain's going to do.
Oh, God, sorry.
It's a device for being able to put that into a game in a thematic way.
Yeah, I love. I love the Connery era Bond movies, and I also, for some reason, the Austin Powers movies just their commentary on that. Like, and I was thinking, where they come up with the elaborate death trap, and Seth Green's character's like, no, like, I'll just grab a gun. I'll go take care of this guy, and then we can go do stuff. No, that's not the way it's done. I want to see this elaborate death trap play out. But he's gonna escape. He always escapes. No, this time I have cleared it up. And you're like, yeah, that does play out a lot in the cliffhanger is kind of the classic, or the Adam West Batman. They always had the same thing, the elaborate death trap that the villains leave. And obviously, Batman has his shark repellent and is able to, get out of there. So on this cover, I see mummies, I see sorcerers, and I see aliens. So we do have that sort of. It is not a strictly historical game. We've got some alternate history here. We've got the weirdness and the stuff that we love in Savage Worlds. Let me pull that cover up again. So tell us about what inspirations did you draw on for the Secret Files?
Oh, wow. Okay, that's a great question. Indiana Jones, obviously, but then things like the X-Files, and the Mummy movies. I love the Mummy.
They're great.
Brendan Fraser. Such good movies. I love those. And so many things. I love the kind of the alien conspiracy theory. Aliens are among us kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
That's something I'm hoping to kind of expand on. Much further down the line, there's going to be, the plan is that there will be a Cold War era version.
Excellent.
Where we'll do a lot more, with things like that. It's just all of that kind of thing. All the pulpy stories, the monster of the week kind of things. But with Section D, I did kind of go more down the villain of the week kind of idea. But it's supposed to be a bit pulpy. At the end of the day, it's not really only about punching Nazis, but there are Nazis there to punch. It's pulpy.
Well, I mean, if you're going to set it in that time period, right?
It's in the rules. Yeah.
Right. What's the Modifius has had their Octoon Cthulhu,
Yes.
and their World War Cthulhu.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I love Savage Worlds, the system, and so I love that you're taking kind of the same eras, the same inspirations, maybe, but like putting it out with your spin, your focus, and Savage Worlds focus, which is just great.
Yeah. I mean, Octoon Cthulhu it's one of the things that I read when I was developing Section D. I couldn't ignore it.
Right. And there's no reason to, right?
There's no reason to, but it's a different kind of game. It's a different feel.
It is 100%.
It's very sort of end of days, and that kind of much darker kind of feel to it. I took some inspiration from. I don't know if you guys have seen it in America. There's a British TV program that was sort of 80s into the early 90s called LOLO. If you ever saw that?
No.
It was a sitcom, and it was based around a French cafe, and the cafe owner was a member of the French Resistance, and there's a British agent has parachuted in, and he's become the local gendarme, and he's trying to coordinate this resistance activity, and you've got two airmen who can't speak French, and you've got corrupt Germans who are trying to liberate the artwork of a local classic artist, and they have a painting of the fallen Madonna amidst the big boobies, and they got 6 or 7 seasons out of it.
I'll have to check that out.
The same 10 jokes, If you look in Section D in the book there, that one of the hindrances I've got is called gidmoaning, and that is totally inspired by LOLO, because the British SOE agent who's parachuted into this whole situation, he thinks he can speak French, but he gets these vowels and things mixed up all the time. So he doesn't pass by the door; he pisses by the deer. It's all this, and it's that kind of slapsticky kind of thing, but the humor is based on incompetence, and that just really appealed to me. That I've got an idea that is in my head about the villain you can see there who looks a bit Nazi but actually isn't, is Gerhard Rinsch, and he came about because I was writing a Christmas adventure. So Gerhard Rinsch, G Rinsch, Grinch, and that's where that came. That's kind of where this guy came from. It's like, okay, well, what are you going to do there? Well, this is a guy who's so extreme he got kicked out of the Nazi party. That's how bad he is. It's just that kind of. It's got to be on that level. That's kind of what it's all about.
So as we've been talking, you said that you've got some new GM tools and assets that you're kind of putting together. Let's talk about those for a while. What's coming up for these GM things that you were talking about?
Right. So these are things that are in the book, because obviously we put the secret files of Section D out there as a kind of a pulp espionage setting with a tongue-in-cheek kind of feel and mechanics in there for making the spy gadgets and things like that. But I think one of the things that I don't often get the chance to have a talk about is some of the GM tools that I developed for the game. So things like there is a card-driven table in there for if a GM needs an instant NPC at the table, they can draw 2 cards, and with those 2 cards, they can understand what that character's, what that NPC's political motivation might be, whether they're sort of pro or anti, whether they're active or passive, and then what their main motivation is, whether that be family, money, fame, or what have you. So you can literally draw 1 or 2 cards
And get a
and
complete NPC
and
picture.
minus the stats, you've got an
Yeah.
idea of how that NPC might react, respond to something, and that can be as easy as, players at the table, they always throw something in that the GM hasn't planned for, and so I've provided GM with a tool where they can draw a couple of cards and say, well, do you know what, the guy who you've just met, he really isn't interested in helping you, and here's why. Or vice versa, could be exactly the other way around. As I said earlier on, one of the things that we've done, or that I wanted to do with Section D, is make it a bit kind of villain of the week. So there's a big section in there about creating villains and super villains and what but again, card driven. So when a GM's doing prep, you can take out your deck of cards, draw a few cards, and all of a sudden you can have a villain. What's motivating that villain? What happened in that villain's backstory that turned them from a normal person into a villain? What changed, and what do they want now? What's their goal? And it's things like that that I think really help. Stats are one thing, but actually getting something that helps a GM develop a story and a reason for that villain to be doing what they're doing. That's
far more interesting.
That's gold for a GM to understand what's happening with that person and why they're doing what they're doing, and it helps at the table. It just helps you to run that game. So, and villain layers. We talked about the James Bond thing, the laser in the table, and all of that kind of stuff. There's tables in there. Again, you draw a few cards, and you've got a villain layer. I've even actually tried this kind of on the fly, doing a whole kind of theatre of the mind game, and it was draw a card, and there's a chart in the book, in the villain layers section, and it's like, okay, you turn a corner and flip, you're in a training area.
Oh, nice.
And you're in the communications room, or you open a door and flip a card, it's a submarine dock. So there's all that kind of all of those kind of tools are in there, and I think the one that was one of the easiest things to do, thanks to the internet and census data, one of the easiest things to do and most valuable and useful is right at the end of the book. There are name generators.
Yes.
And that I've used that so many times in so many different games. Is just a case of draw a couple of cards, and it's the hardest thing in the world, isn't it? There's so many people out there and so many name combinations, but when player says, what's this guy's name? And the GM goes,
That's right.
Yeah.
So now I'm thinking, if I ever get to run this, I'm going to just draw the hallways on I've got a glass tabletop for my gaming space that has hexes on it. I could just draw the hallways, deal 3 cards to each player, and be like, all right, now put that card down. Here's where the room enters. And then the players can help build the map. I love that. Tipsy Flipper, I have just posted the link to Imaginarium Games, which is where you can get the secret files of Section D.
Yeah. It's out on drive-through.
Yep.
And this is something the astute amongst you will have picked up, that I'm in the UK. Don't think that the physical books, that you can't get them in the US. We have a distributor in the US. They've got the books and they can ship them. And if JM does the thing now on cue and just picks up the book that's next to him and waves it around a little bit. I said to him last week, have you got a copy of the book yet? And he said no. And I said, right, we'll sort that out.
It took 4 days to get to me, 5 days, something like that.
Yeah. So we do have a distributor in the US, so you don't have to pay crazy money to ship the book from the UK if you want a copy of the hardback. And if you buy a copy of the hardback, you'll get the PDF for free anyway. So,
All right, let me see if I could find the page that I'm looking for here.
There's the plug.
So I love this page.
Right. Okay.
The evil genius. So first of all, yeah, the villainous equipment guide.
Yeah.
Mwah. But I love that you have these, Alberto Piccolo's miniature Rizator, which is great.
Yeah.
Dr. McFadden's Autodoc.
Yeah. Yeah. It's trying to get spells and powers into gadgets. That was the whole thing about I wrestled for quite a long time with how do you get a James Bond gadget into Savage Worlds.
Yeah.
And the powers system was the answer to that. So what we've done with Section D is we took out the option for artificers and things like that as part of the arcane backgrounds, and we moved that aside into a kind of almost like an NPC role. So when you want your James Bond style gadgets, it's the Q division. James Bond has a Q division. It was how do you make a James Bond kind of gadget, and the powers were there. So all I've done is the gadgets now they have two trappings. So you have a power trapping and you have an effect trapping.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want a freeze ray, then it's bolt or entangle or something like the mechanic is there to do that. And then you have a trapping as to how is that powered? Instead of just a guy pointing his finger, you have a tank on your back with what's the word? The really, really cold stuff, and the name is just completely
liquid nitrogen.
Thank you.
I got you. We're a team. Yeah. We practice this.
So instead of just having magical powers, you have a tank of liquid nitrogen on your back, and hey presto, you've got a bolt power, but the trapping is ice. If you want a fireball, then you've got a lava tank. Your villain's base is in a volcano, and every couple of days they dip a little tank into the lava and it comes out, and then when you go out to do your villainy, you've got a thing that sprays the stuff all over the good guys. So
awesome.
So that was again, it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier on about what do you love about Savage Worlds and the flexibility of it. Just being able to manipulate the power system and do something completely different, but also keep a familiar mechanic for people, for players and GMs. That at the end of the day, it's just the powers. James Bond's magnetic, watch that can bring something across the room on a magnet. Well, okay, it's a watch that's got telekinesis power instead. Easy, and it's clockwork powered. There you go, done. If you want to recharge the power points, wind the watch.
Right. Right. Go back to the volcano, get more lava. Cripwright said the book's layout is well thought out and he loves it. I do too, Cripwright. It's beautiful. Like, I love the layout of this book. And I mean, obviously I like showing off pieces of it. He also mentioned Cobra Law. I will not do my Cobra Law.
That one has gone right
Battle
over
Cry. That's a G.I. Joe reference.
Right. Okay.
The Cobra Emperor Serpentis, if I remember correctly, and his troops had a battle cry of "I'm not going to do it. I refuse to do that where it is recorded. Sorry, Cripwright, you won't trap me." Serpentor, that's what it was. Tipsy Flipper just said he ordered the hardback. Awesome. Well, excellent. Thank you. That's fantastic.
Oh, that's fantastic. Thank you very much. I do appreciate that.
Crypt Doom has corrected me. It is Serpentor and not Serpentis. Thank you. Do you want to talk about the new maps for? You shared some information about Better Latte Than Never.
Yes. So the adventure that I was talking about, right at the top of the program, was One a Cup of Tea, and the Temple of Put a Kettle On.
That's right. Yeah.
And so that's what developed into the adventure called Better Latte Than Never. It's the very first thing that I wrote for the Secret Files of Section D. It's part of the Kickstarter. It's massively overdue, for which I sincerely apologise. I've been working as hard as I can this week. I wanted to get it out there before we did this show, but I've fallen short by maybe a day's work. So I thought, well, I need to have something to show for that, and people want to know, why is it taking so long? And one of the things that I've done is I got some new map making software, and that has been allowed me to update the maps. So the one you're showing there is the new version. That is.
Oh, hold on. Yeah, let me start over. Let me go to map.
That is the
Let me go to slide one.
Right. Okay. So that is the inner temple of One a Cup of Tea, and that's the original map version that I had, and that's the new one. So this is thanks very much to the guys at Dungeon Fog. The software is amazing, and what you can actually do with it, and how well you can use it. So John Doom said yes. Incarnate. No, John. It's called Dungeon Fog, and yeah, you can do some really good stuff with it. I really like that. It's a great effect. One of the big thing for me is that Dungeon Fog comes with a commercial license, so everything that I generate on there, I can put in the book, no problem whatsoever. So okay, what you've got up there is the original map for the temple area of the lost city of Put a Kettle On, and the new version is I think going to pop up any second. Yeah. So that's the updated version, and again, it's a lot more textural. Able to
got a lot more depth to it.
A lot, yeah. Just able to do a lot more with it. In terms of sort of how I can work with that software and how I put stuff into the book as well. Anybody that picks up the Taster Edition we'll see. I'm really proud of the maps that I was able to put in the Taster Edition. That's got deck plans for a Zeppelin, but I think with what I've been, I think I've gone up a level in terms of presentation of the maps, I'm really pleased. I'm quite proud of the way that those are turning out.
Awesome.
So So like I said, I know a lot of folks are wanting to know, when the hell am I going to get my hands on Better Latte Than Never, and the answer to that is maybe tomorrow. But if not tomorrow, then it's going to be, I would say, probably middle of next week. And the only reason I say that is that I'm in hospital on Monday for surgery on my foot.
Well, good luck.
So yeah, we'll have to see. We'll have to see what goes there. But I'm going to do my best to get the thing out. Literally, I've got one page to finish the layout on, and then I need to go through and do the bookmarking and make sure the table of contents is right, and that kind of stuff. Put a section in the back about with all of the various handouts and things like that. So I shared the PDF with you earlier on, so you can see hopefully you can see that we are kind of at the
you're at the finish line.
We're right on the cusp of being able to actually put that out there. We just didn't quite get there, again, unfortunately, I'm a perfectionist. I look at things and I think, could I do that better? And then I spend some time trying to do it better. Sometimes I do, and sometimes I don't. You're a writer. I'm sure you've been there yourself. There comes a point where you have to just say, right, that's it. It has to be done now.
Perfect is the enemy of done. That is. Yes. So John Doom said the Savage Universe stream is AKA how Doomwright blows their monthly TTRPG budget on a weekly basis. Because Cryptwright says he's going to have to get this as well. So is it? So Cryptwright, is that thing from, was it Superman 3 or Office Space, where you're just taking the little fractions of change and pulling it all together? So, Allan, Section D is out. It's gorgeous. Yeah. It's finished. It's wonderful to see it here, physically and out in the wild PDF wise. Mm-hmm. Better Off Latte, sometime between tomorrow and next week, we're going to see that out.
Yeah.
You mentioned a Cold War supplement, so I feel like I have to ask, what's next for Imaginarium Games?
Right, so we still have so Better Latte Than Never is a trilogy of adventures. Okay. So we have Going for a Song, and Shades of Grey. Okay. So I'm kind of shying away from calling this a plot point campaign. It's more kind of just connected adventures. So, in Better Latte Than Never, we have weaponized milkshakes. And then in Going for a Song, the bad guys, the Nazis, are up to similar kind of tricks. And this time they've tried to weaponize opera. And there's a little teaser actually on the front cover of the book. This here.
I see that, the tank that's shooting.
Yeah. So this is a sonic cannon, but what it's doing is it's recorded opera voices. You know how you can shatter a glass with the right note, or an opera singer can shatter a glass with the right note. Well, if you've got half a dozen opera singers singing the right note at the right tone, why can't you put cracks in the Maginot Line? So if you ever really wanted to know what the secret files of Section D is all about, is kind of right there. Weaponized opera, and Shades of Grey. Well, I've got to hold something back. Let's just say we've touched upon the protagonist in that particular adventure already. Those adventures are written. What I need to do is get those into layout. Oh, they're written, they're tested, everything like that. I think one of the reasons why Better Latte Than Never has taken the time that it has to get out is that it's the first thing I wrote for Section D. It's the first adventure that I've written, and maybe you can back me up on this. I'd be interested to know your thoughts. But you kind of, when you're writing an adventure, you find that you get that kind of, what if the players do this, and what if they don't take that path and they do this, and do I need to equip the GM for if the players decide to go this line instead of that line, and how do you do that? And the thing with Better Latte Than Never is that I wrote the thing, ran it at the table, and when you're there at the table, you can improvise, you
do whatever you need to.
But when you're putting that out there for somebody else to run, you've got to either write it in a way that somebody else can run it right from the get-go, or you've got to build in enough information that the GM can pick up the ball and run with it when the players go off on that tangent, because it's not if, it's when. So that I guess what I'm saying is that Going for a Song and Shades of Grey are written better in terms
you learn how to do it
in terms of getting them out there faster. And I'm not going to read through them and go, but what happens if the players do this? And a bit too
whenever
much
I write adventures, I write my outline, I start writing, and about halfway through I've gone, well, now I got to go rewrite the first half because I had this cool idea, and now I'm twisting the second half of this adventure.
Yeah.
That's what I'm doing right now. I'm writing a Savage Worlds fantasy adventure, and 3/4 of the way through, and went, well, now I've got to go rewrite that first section because this is a better idea than I had when I started. And then, thankfully, I've got a good editor who, when I'm done, goes, all right, these two things don't connect like you thought they did. Let's smooth this out.
Yeah. The whole with Better Latte Than Never, it starts off with a scene in Prague, and it was one scene, and it was a little bit it was a little bit, it was very linear. It was, your job, Section D, is go to Prague and extract this target, this person, go there, get him. You go there. The Germans are there trying to get him as well, and it culminates with a chase scene. That's how the guys get away. And then I did some playtesting with it, and some of the feedback that I got with the playtesting was, it would be really nice if it wasn't so one-dimensional. We've gone to Prague. It's a great city. It's got so much to offer from this particular point of view, and particularly at the time that the adventure is set as well. You could do so much more with it, and I thought, right, okay, let's do some more with it then. And that needed to be developed and written and tested. And going back to Jan lives in Prague. He's been a massive help with things like that. Even down to what's it like in this area of the city, but not so much now, but what was it like what was it like 70, 80 years ago? And he knows this kind of stuff. It's great.
That's awesome.
So yeah, it's become a lot more than it started out. A lot more choice, a lot more adventure. I think that's probably the best way to put it. A lot more adventure.
Very cool.
So,
well, Allan, thanks so much for joining us here on Savage Universe.
Thank you
for the book.
Again, you're welcome. Thank you for saying nice things about it.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love Savage Worlds, and I love working with the people who are doing, the licensee side of it, and I love seeing their stuff come to fruition. And this is a great book to have.
Yeah, no, it's
I'm with Tipsy. Thank you for the cool book.
No, it's been such good fun to work on, and the people that I've met just because I've done it have been great as well. All the PEG guys, and people at conventions and all this kind of stuff as well. We did UK Games Expo back in the summer, and the guy just came over to the stand and he was like, I kickstarted I backed your book on the Kickstarter. It's brilliant. And just like, so it's so nice to get that kind of feedback. I love it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, thank you again. Again, if you guys are out there and you are doing stuff with Savage Worlds and the Savage Worlds license, whether it's fan-made, media, swag, or ace, please let me know. I love talking with you. I love putting out, signal boosting. I'm putting out right now the link. Putting out the Imaginarium Games. Please go check it out. You can get the physical copy there. I'm going to put the drive-through. But as was mentioned, if you think you're going to get the physical book, just pull the trigger on it because you get the PDF with it as well.
If I may just give a quick shout out as well.
Please do.
Our US distributor, Last Mile Game Logistics, they're actually going to be at a couple of conventions as well. So there's one called Nerdlovia in Louisville, Kentucky, November the 4th, 5th, and Yukon Gaming Convention in, I'm going to need help here. It's YPSILANI. I think it's called Ypsilanti.
Ypsilanti?
In Michigan.
In Michigan, yep.
So Yukon Gaming Convention, Ypsilanti, Michigan, November 17th, 19th. and Nerd Louvier 23, Louisville, Kentucky, November 4th, 5th. And those guys, so the guys at Last Mile Games, they will have copies of the book, and we do also have some retailers carrying it in the US as well. So it's in a few places, not as many as I would like. If you want your local game store to carry it, let me know. I can get I can get copies into local game stores quickly. So
how would people reach out to you?
There is a Facebook group.
Okay.
So there is at Section D RPG on Facebook, and there is Section D HQ on Discord as well.
Awesome.
So there's that, or you can just email me through the website, through the Imaginarium Games website. There's a contact form on there, or just Allan at imaginariumgames.com. So ALLAN.
Can you shoot me a invite to the Section D Discord, and I'll post that in the chat.
I can. I don't think it actually needs an invite. Anybody can come onto it. So I will do that right now. I'm trying to do that right now. Okay, invite people. Right, okay, copy that. Just give me 1 second. I am going as fast as my fat fingers will.
Oh, don't worry about it. Take your time. So we're actually going to be back next Thursday with the Knights of the Smith dinner table crew. They just finished up their Reign of Winter Savage Worlds actual play. They're going to be on Tuesday. You're going to get to Landauer and I will be on the channel to then raid the Knights of the Smith dinner table channel, because they're going to be running Night Train on Halloween. So I've seen some of the things that DM James is putting together, and it's going to be epic. And then we're going to interview them next Thursday on Savage Universe, talk about what they have just wrapped up, talk about Night Train, and talk about what they have coming up next on their channel. So here's the link to the Discord channel for Section D. Yep. Go join it. Like, why wouldn't you? So that brings us to the end of this Savage Universe. Allan, again, thanks for the great book. I am about a third of the way through it and laughing and enjoying it and finding things that I want to use in my games. I'm just probably going to have to run a one-shot of Savage D here pretty soon, or Section D. Wow, my brain. Run a one-shot of Savage Worlds Secret Files of Section D here soon.
Yeah, it's worth grabbing. Go on drive-through and grab the Taster Edition. It's free and there's a full adventure in there. So just go do that.
Go check it out. Cryptrite, you are correct as always. Technically correct, the best kind of correct. So I will see you all on Thursday. If you end up seeing a stream go live on Tuesday night, that's Landauer and I. We're going to be hyping up the Night Train one-shot for the Knights of the Smith dinner table. Until next time, go out there and play some Savage Worlds, people. And may all your dice ace. Have a good one.
Thank you very much, guys. Take care, everybody.